Do you want to transform your blues playing? In the next few minutes, I'll show you some essential blues turnarounds that'll really elevate your lead and rhythm playing. Let's dive in. We'll get right down to business with the basic anatomy of a blues turnaround, what it is and how it works. And then we'll show you 3 simple ways that the greats do it. Make sure you stick around to the end because I'm going to show you an especially cool way to do a turnaround that seems to break all the rules, but if you watch the video, you'll understand why it really doesn't. Before we get into any details, what is a blues turnaround? Well, here's an example of one. I'm sure you've heard that before. Now let's dig in. Here we have a standard 12-bar blues in A, and you can see I've used all dominant 7th chords, A7, D7, and E7. What we're talking about for the turnaround is really these last 2 measures here, where we have the A7 leading to the E7, and then it turns back around, that's where it gets its name, to the top of the blues, and then we play it all over again. The turnaround part is just the last piece. So really that turnaround piece is the A7 trying to get to the E7 chord. Now if we look at an A7 chord, we see it's made up of A, C sharp, E, and G. And an E7 chord is E, G sharp, B, and D. And we see that there's only one note in common, it's the E. E is the 5th of A, and it's the root of E. So E is called a common tone. It's found in both of the chords, A7 and E7. But it's not enough just to know what it is. We also need to know how to play it. So let's take a look at some of the ways that the greats did it. Remember, I've got that special one coming at the end, so make sure you wait until the end for that one. First, we'll go over a method that was favored by Eric Clapton. Sometimes the best ways are the simplest ways, and this is a super simple way. Eric favored this in the 60s when he played with John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. It's very simple. You're just playing the root of that 5 chord, like this. And then you play it an octave down too. In this case, I play an E right here on the B string, and then I play an E right here on the A string. Now you can play it here too, it doesn't really matter. Let me put that in context so you can hear it. And the turnaround. It's so simple and it's so perfect because it just matches exactly what the chord is being played and what the rest of the band is doing at that time. So that's a great way of playing it. Here's one slight variation on Eric's method. One thing that we can do to fill the gap between the octaves is to insert an A chord and just play down the A chord. And then end it with an E7. Because E is a common tone in both A7 and E7, we can do that. Sounds great. So that's pretty simple, but it only scratches the surface. And much more common is the next method we'll look at, which I call the walk-up method. The walk-up method is also simple. Now remember, what we're trying to do is get to that E, which is a common tone with the A7 chord and the E7 chord. So one way we could do that is to play 3 frets below and walk up the fretboard or up the notes till we get to that E, like this. I know you've heard that turnaround before, but why 3 frets below? Well, here's the simple reasoning. This happens to be a C sharp. That's a chord tone of A, as we discussed. So we go from one chord tone to the next chord tone up, we get it. And there are endless ways that we can make that idea fancier. Here are just a couple ideas. One way I can make it sound a lot fancier is to add a pedal note. So in this case, I'm going to add this A between every note of the walk-up, like this. And I can do variations on that like this. Right? So that's one way I can make it a lot fancier. Another way is I can change that ending. Instead of just playing an E7 chord, I could play what's called an approach chord. Now, an approach chord is just the same shaped chord, but I'm going to play it 1 fret or 1/2 step below. In this case, I'll play an E flat 7 and I'll play the 7 like this. So that's called the walk-up method, but there's even a more common method, and it's called the walk-down method. Let's have a quick look at that. So you probably guessed what it is. It's starting 3 frets above where you want to end up, which again is that E. In this case, we'll start right here and walk down to that E. Now, the interesting thing is, why can we use this? That happens to be a G note, and that is in an A7 chord. Remember, A, C sharp, E, and G. G is the flatted 7th, so it gives it that nice spiciness that we expect from a 7th chord, and that's why it's probably most common. Of course, you can make it fancy as well by putting in the pedal tone and use an approach chord. Works basically the same way, up or down. And there you go. So now you know why that version of the Robert Johnson turnaround or the ZZ Top Jesus Just Left Chicago turnaround, why that works. It's just the fancy version of the walk down. But I was going to show you that special turnaround that seems to defy the logic that we had. Let's take a quick look at that one. Sounds strange. When I first heard this, I heard it from Robin Ford. I didn't understand what was going on. I thought there was some weird theory, like here's a strange A7 chord, now here's a B minor 7, now here's an F7. What was that all about? And then this, now back to A. But honestly, there's no strange theory required once you understand the anatomy of these turnarounds. So on a D string, we're just doing a walk down. And on the B string, we're doing a walk up. Right? Because that's an E, and that's an E. So we're doing them both in parallel. That's it. So cool. But if you liked learning this little trick, you're going to love this one, a trick that I learned from the late, great Danny Gatton. So go ahead and click on this. I'll see you in that video, and I'll see you on down the road.